going to more superior roles. So I wanted to talk about some statistics. So for the U.S., as an example, in 2017, Pew Research recorded that women made 82% of what men made.
Content over everything!
And to put that into perspective, that means that they would have to work an extra 47 days just to make as much as men made working the same amount of time. The Census Bureau also recorded that in 2016, women who worked year-round, which means they didn't take off any time for like maternity leave or anything like that, they still made 80% of what men made. Also, more of a worldwide study was done by Forbes, which revealed that mostly in Western Europe and North America, that women hold only 10% of the more superior roles, such as CEOs and VPs. I also want to talk about sexual misconduct in the workplace, which is also a big factor into this glass ceiling that out of many women that I've talked with, they have experienced themselves sexual misconduct in the workplace. TUC did a survey of UK women of over
I wish I'd have any. I never get any sexual
of over 1,500 UK women who they revealed that they had experienced some sort of sexual harassment in the workplace, and it also revealed how they felt about that. And what it revealed is that they felt less confident, they didn't show up to work as much for fear that it would happen again. Many women actually left their jobs because, again, for fear that it would happen again. Sexual misconduct in the workplace makes women feel as if the only way for them to rise up in their job position is to
Why
do
would
something.
anyone want a job anyway? I really don't understand that. I haven't had a job for 25 years. Why would
not my
a woman
argument.
why would anybody want a job?
Okay,
What's
so
that?
Very disrespectful.
No, I'm being heckled as a heckler. That's not fair.
Are women not acting as if they're being victimised?
Yes, here.
I think the problem is that
Stop.
I think
The reason why they get paid less, they're so
I
busy
think-
bloody whinging.
I think the problem is that it's actually not addressed enough, that they're not being victimized enough, and that's why it continues to happen, and that's why it's still super relevant. That it's been seen like since the beginning of women working in the workplace, and it's still seen just as much now. And so I think it needs to be addressed more, actually, which is why I'm arguing about it today. I also wanted to discuss the mommy track, which a lot of people use that as a way to debate my argument. And they say that women, as they often start to rise up in their job positions, they tend to want to start a family, and they tend to want to have children, meaning that they're less of a value to the workplace because of that. And what I have to say to that is that actually there's a lot of women who don't want to have children, and women are raised on the societal notion that for them to have value, that they have to have children and they have to start a family, and yet they're penalized for that in the workplace. Also, I wanted to talk about single mothers who have to work twice as hard. Sometimes they have to work 2 to 3 jobs just to be able to support their family, and they would benefit from being able to rise up to higher positions.
What about the stay-at-home mom? A lot of people say that society is a lot worse now.
I wanted to talk about the daddy track, which are the men that actually stay home as well. Not a lot of people know this, but in many countries, men are actually allowed to take paid time off. They're also allowed to stay at home, and even when they're just adopting a child, they can still get the same benefits, such as paid time off and stay at home.
Do you think it would be different if men could have babies? I mean, am I the only heckler here at Speakers Corner?
Well, as I was saying, there are men who actually stay at home. Of course, women actually have to.
Yeah, but the women, they
children.
don't find that kind of man sexy. That's what I heard.
Stay-at-home dads.
Yeah. They lose interest.
Yo, have you heard the word of daddy before, man? Like, what's wrong with you? You've heard the word daddy?
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
Okay, well, there you go.
Okay, back to my argument.
No, but that's
not my argument. My
According
argument
to
is
many
that
studies.
women do still face this glass ceiling, and that it needs to be addressed more frequently. And it kind of raises a question that why are women who are working just as hard are getting paid less than men, and they're getting lower positions. Statistics actually show that women are entering and graduating college at a much higher rate than men, and yet although they have all of these same qualifications, they are not getting the same positions, and they are not getting the same kind of recognition.
But do you think any of that is down to the women? Because I watched the Jordan Peterson debate, and he was saying that women, for example, are less likely to negotiate a higher pay than a man would. But then,
Because they've been talked down.
so then do you
Exactly.
feel like
Again, that's part of the glass ceiling. I mentioned sexual misconduct, but there's many factors that make women feel less confident and make them feel as if they can't speak up because they're scared that they'll lose their job or they're scared that they won't become this higher position.
But then how do you address that issue for women to speak up?
Well, my argument is that the glass ceiling should be more recognized in order to find a solution for this issue.
Why are there more women speaking at Speaker's Corner?
Because wait, actually, that's a good question.
It's not.
Well, today there are more women.
It is a good
I think
question.
today there are more women speaking at Speaker's Corner than men. By the time we're done.
So do you want me to go around counting?
You can. Yeah, you can, because you won't. We will have at least, I don't know, 13 women.
Can you just let us speak?
Okay, you want to wrap it up then?
Yes,
Especially
again,
for
I
him.
want to say that.
Keep going. Don't wrap it up just because a man tells you to wrap it up. You've got to wrap it up.
They're right, Jerry. No, I will gladly wrap this up. Again, I feel as if it should be more recognized, and again, it poses a question: why are women who are working just as hard making less?
Thank you, Victoria. Okay. Well done. Okay. Yeah, you want to go? Ali. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I told you there were more women than men speaking today. Okay, Ali, you want to give someone your bag? Do you want to hold on to it? Yeah, give it to
Hey,
me.
my dad, I did dress up. Ron. Here,
Yeah.
I'll give it to my dad.
That's it.
So, who here eats meat? Has ever eaten meat in their life?
I'm proud of it.
Okay. Do you ever think about where you get that meat? Is it a farm animal? Was it in the wild at one point? Okay. So it's a farm animal, right?
Yeah.
Do you have any respect for that animal? Do you know where it actually comes from? Do you know how it's kept? Do you know anything about that?
No, do you know?
Do you know when it's living? Do you know where it lives? Did you know what it was like when it was living?
No, it's
I drive around the country and see them in the field sometimes.
Good. So do you think it is humane to kill an animal that you've kept in captivity for its entire life without giving it a true chance to live?
You eat meat though.
Yeah. You're right. But the difference is I have killed an animal before and I have given that animal respect. I have know what it's like to go into the wild and to kill an animal for what it is and take its life. I am not blind to the idea of just picking an animal dead meat off the shelf. I understand the life that I'm taking. I respect the life that I've taken. I have used the entire life that I have taken. And that's what I think everyone needs to experience at least once in their life in order to truly understand and respect the animal that they're eating. Because if you have no idea what it takes in order to eat your meat, then you have no right to eat that meat. If you have no respect for what you're eating. Hunting in a respectable manner in England is, or in any place really, yes I am. Hunting is a necessity, or used to be a necessity for our way of life. Hunting was a way to connect to nature, and it still is a way to connect to nature. In today's society, especially and in London, we are disconnected from nature and everything that is going on around us.
So you want us to go out and kill animals then?
I would like for everyone to go out and at least attempt to hunt, at least get connected to nature and experience what it's like to take an animal's life and to clean the animal and to skin the animal and use every part of that animal in order to respect it fully.
If that's true, do you believe in hunting foxes, killing them, getting really warm and caring, and then eating them?
In Fox's manor in England, it is actually illegal to use a pack of hunting dogs to kill a fox because it is more humane if you do not do that. It is more humane to just shoot the fox as soon as it is found. It is actually illegal not to shoot the fox as soon as it's found.
You're saying everyone should go hunting?
I'm saying if you have the resources, the ability, and the desire to go hunting, then you should be able to. Hunting is not a rich man's sport. And no, it is not. In England, you do not need a permit to hunt certain animals. You only need to do it in certain seasons. There's other methods besides using a gun to hunt animals. You can trap them, but as long as you kill them as soon as they are found, then it is legal. hunting is something that we all need to do in order to understand where our food is coming from.
So we're not that sort of society.
How does that change anything in our lives?
Because you understand where it's coming from, you understand where.
What about this dog? Would you kill this dog?
There's legal animals to hunt and is tame. Giving an animal or taking an animal from the wild, after giving the animal a chance to live in the wild, it is more humane than keeping them.
Find a wild cow.
In India. If this is annoying, you're in the wrong place.
There are animals in the wild that are.
You're used to being.
There are native animals here that are meant to be hunted and killed,
Well, you're all into
such as
detention.
deer, foxes, whales, birds. There are other things that you can use that are not cows, that are not pigs, because pigs are not a natural animal to this area. If you do not understand that, I'm sorry that you're stupid.
Indian religion, we have a God.
In conclusion,
Yoga, maybe.
Deep breath
out. Deep breath in. Deep breath out.
In conclusion,
You're
I
in
am
the wrong
simply
path,
saying
I'd say.
that in
There are 3 other
order
corners
to
to this
understand
path.
and respect the animals that you are eating, you should be able to, at least once in your lifetime, capture an animal from the wild after giving it a complete chance to live in the wild in a fair fight, legally, in the right parts of England and or wherever you're from, using manners that are legal, safe, and humane in order to understand where your meat's coming from, connect to the nature around you, connect to the land and your ancestral roots, in order to actually understand what you're eating and respect it actually deserves as an animal.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ali. Well done. Okay, Gabriella. Yes.
Good
You
girl.
just go.
Thank you. Next.
Okay, Gabriella, that's you.
So obviously I'm American, and there are not many things that America does better than the UK, but I'm here to talk about something that you guys really suck at. I've lived here for about 3 months, and obviously when you've lived somewhere for a while, you have to go grocery shopping. And like all of you, I'm sure, I have been reduced to shopping at Sainsbury's. Mostly it's just because I've either had a little bit too much to drink, I'm just way too hungry and it's the closest
there wasn't a
thing,
Waitrose close.
or I'm just poor. I'm too poor for Waitrose. But every time I shop at Sainsbury's, I realize that it's the worst grocery store I've ever been in. I step into Sainsbury's. There's 15 open registers and 2 people working. These workers are the slowest, most incompetent people I've ever met in my life.
Stop shopping.
That's English tradition. Those are our traditions.
I spent at least 20 minutes in the queue, at least, just to buy like a glass of water.
Dog is upset now. Look.
I agree.
On multiple occasions, I've seen rats on the ground, like around my food that I'm eating. All of the food is either past its expiration date or is going to expire in 2 days. And it all tastes like actual shit. I'm just going to throw that out there. Yes.
Can you name the Sainsbury, please?
What?
That Sainsbury you went to, said right there. Which part of London?
Central London, Tottenham Court Road.
Yeah, the
Local
wrong place.
Are you being paid by the Tesco Superstore?
Yeah. Who do you work for?
If you're Tottenham, that's good because that's awesome. Not for me.
How do you feel about Chinese people eating dogs?
That is a lie. That is a lie.
I'm not really talking about that, but I think that's a stereotype
What
that I
have you
don't
got
agree
against
with.
Sainsbury's? I mean, are you really telling us
Who are
Sainsbury's
you
is...
working for?
It's American.
Tesco?
I work for America. I work for Publix.
Are you from California?
Publix is an American grocery store, and it shows up Sainsbury's so much.
Yes.
The workers are kind. They bag your things for you, and they walk you out to your car.
Come over here.
That sounds so creepy the way you just
There's
put
no
it.
rats.
And they'll
The
rob you
food
outside
tastes
they walk
good.
into the car.
It doesn't
You
expire.
have a 10% chance of getting shot, you know. If you slip over and you get polio, it costs you $1 million to get fixed. White power, Donald Trump, man.
No white
Trump
power.
destroyed your
All I'm
life.
saying is Sainsbury's sucks, and they don't help you out as a customer. There's no support. There's no customer support.
So why do you think that is? I mean, why do you think
They're
a
deep
main
points.
supermarket doesn't have the standards that you think you should have?
Is that what you want?
What?
Sainsbury's sucks.
Is that what you're making?
I think I'm saying yes. There's better grocery stores than same.
That's our culture.
Yes.
Okay.
That's my
Well done,
argument.
we all agree.
Thank you for agreeing with me.
Are you here for like some kind of project? Why you always speak?
Yeah, I'm here for
She's here. She's representing Tesco. Okay.
Damn.
So
Are you from California, by the way?
Costco.
Which part of Which part of America?
Tennessee.
Tennessee.
Yeah.
So tell me, what makes a good
What do you think about Israel-Palestine?
I'm pro-Israel.
From Alpha side, yeah?
I'm Lebanese. I'm Lebanese.
Hold on.
Are you from the Alpha side? Alpha. How is Alpha?
Okay, I'm talking about Sainsbury's, guys.
No, let's talk about Alpha. Yes.
I am actually not. Wow.
No, you have to like Sainsbury's
Did
now.
you go to Sainsbury's and tell them that you saw rats there?
I have not told you.
Why
what I
not?
said.
Why not?
Because I don't want to get yelled at by these workers. I don't want to get like.
Is it not your obligation?
You don't support the Palestinian people?
What?
You don't support the Palestinian people?
I do support the I don't have that much of a. I don't
So
care.
both
Yeah,
sides,
exactly.
Stick to grocery stores.
Yes, it
Okay,
is.
thanks,
Okay.
guys.
Yeah, go and get some.
All right.
Casey has decided.
Next!
Thank you.
Next!
Next, bitch.
Oh, she's there.
Do you want to go? Okay, you can go ahead. I'll go
From
after you.
Tennessee as well?
Hey!
Gracias, amigos. Buenas tardes.
It's not real.
Sabrina. Okay.
What are you talking about, festival?
Huh?
Okay,
What are you talking
Madeline.
about?
So who here is religious? Yeah, kind of, right? Okay, so did you choose this religion or were you born into it? Right? I'm going to talk about how going to Catholic school my whole life has made me
I'm born
atheist.
as a religious.
Yeah, alright. So, what?
Living in America makes you
No, I'm just atheist. Fuck that. I do not believe in religion.
Okay.
That's fine. I'll see it. When I see it, I'll
It's
see
very
it.
hot over there, it's not fine.
I live in Miami. I'll fucking do it. I have been.
There will be no fucking in hell, I can tell you that.
Language.
All right.
You're in the Queen of England's back garden.
All right. So, when I started going to Catholic school, I was about 3 years old, and I went all the way until I was 18 years old.
Did the nuns
Being raised, no, thank God. Being raised in this religion has taught me how much I do not agree with the religion in its own. Now, I was baptized at the age of 3 months old, where I could not make my own decision to be
Well, how
baptized.
How do you know?
Because I
You
told
were
my mom.
3 months.
My mom told me.
Maybe
I was
she lied.
baptized.
Maybe she lied to you.
Okay, maybe she did.
You were just having bath.
However, when I was baptized, I could not make the decision on my own to go and be baptized. I think that you should not raise your children to be religious. You should let them choose that yourself. When I went to Catholic school, I learned the beginning when I was about 6 or 7. I learned the parables of Jesus, like the mustard seed, the prodigal son, etc. However, as I continued to be raised in this religion, I had learned that I do not agree with it. Here are the top 3 reasons why I do not agree with Catholicism.
Why did you say thank God a few minutes ago?
Yeah, you're right. Good
When you have a
point.
problem, you say Jesus.
Thank God you're an atheist.
Yeah. Fake atheism.
What was wrong with learning these stories? I mean, they're all.
Silent.
Guys, let her finish. Then you guys
Professor.
answer.
All right, what was wrong with these stories? Good question. I could not agree with the morals that they were teaching because they do not make sense to me. My first point of
Maybe they're a bit
Catholicism that do not make sense.
You're an angry
Number
atheist.
1, abortion.
She is getting
I
excited.
know it's controversial,
Temperature's going up.
but I do
Angry
not.
atheist. Very angry.
Maybe.
Not with you.
First of all, I cannot agree with the Catechism of the Catholic Church, which states inside of their rule book of Catholicism that if you decide to have an abortion or support it, that you are not Catholic. That does not make sense to me. I understand the respect life aspect. However, if I do not have an abortion but respect other people's decision to, that does not make sense to me. Number 2, same-sex marriage and the disagreement with it. That does not make sense with me either, because they do not agree in same-sex marriage. But in the late 80s, there were sex crime scandals where priests would molest 10-year-old boys. So that does not make sense to me.
That Catholic priest always like abortion.
No, you're talking about the priest.
That's a good question. Why do they like people in general?
Right,
They're
by the
supposed to
way.
be committed to God, but they're still with
You know
little
the Pope,
boys.
You know the Pope, one Pope in Italy, he slept with 500 kids.
Huh?
One Pope in Italy, he's a Catholic, yeah?
Yeah.
He slept with so many children. So he admitted he slept with 1,000 children.
Yeah.
He's from Germany. I don't know.
You just said 500, now it's 1,000.
No, but he's changing it in a bit.
No,
He's changing.
Regardless, it's wrong. It should be 1 kid or 1,000 kids. They shouldn't be molesting kids.
1,000 is double as wrong, right?
Miami.
No. Which country?
The USA.
No, USA. Never heard. Back in the days.
Like your ancestors.
Germany.
Germany. Yes.
Thank God.
How could you disbelieve in God?
Because I cannot agree. I cannot agree with the religion that supports a God that chooses all of these crazy scandals, and the priests support it as well. That does not make any sense to me.
The Pope is not allowed to get married.
I have no opinion on Islam. I was raised Catholic. That is not my issue.
The Pope is not allowed to get married.
My third thing, thank you. My third issue, I do not agree with the idea of having to go to church every Sunday. That makes no sense to me.
You can go on Monday.
You
can go Saturday if you want.
Okay, you're right. Going every week does not make sense to me. Why do I have to prove that? Why do I have to prove that I am devotional? It's a big act. Everyone chooses to go to church and donate their money, but why does that make sense? Why do they need it? They're not going anywhere except in the priest's pockets, and that makes no sense to me. Because I was raised in my religion. I was raised Catholic, which taught me that I do not believe in religion.
You're
right. I don't know a lot about other religions. However,
I got a church scholarship from volunteers.
That's good for you. You've really done good at it.
You say the Catholic Catechism says if you had an abortion, you're not a Catholic.
Yes.
Does the Catholic Catechism say that if you're a priest and you're a paedophile, you are a Catholic or aren't a Catholic?
No, but the Catholic religion supports the priests that are molesting these
They
children.
are still Catholics, even though they're paedophiles. But if you have an abortion, you're not a Catholic.
Yes.
That's
He's
messed
Jewish,
up.
that's why he's Jewish.
Yeah. No, it's messed up, which is why I do not agree with Catholicism.
I don't think
it
the
is
church,
not
listen,
correct.
I don't think the church will support some pedophilia. It's not true. Don't say the whole.
I guess, yeah, you're correct. That does make sense.
Oh, I thought you were Hare Krishna.
No, I do not. Do not.
What do you believe
Huh?
in?
She doesn't believe.
What do you believe
I do
in?
not believe. No belief. So that is my argument on why I do not believe you should raise your children, because all of the knowledge that I learned in Catholic school taught me how much I do not agree with Catholicism. Thank you.
Thank you, Madeline. Now, good, Sabrina.
You need water. You need
Colombia.
Hey.
Okay, so I'm going to start off with a little story.
Hang on a second, just wait one moment.
It is a true story. Yes.
How do we know you might believe?
I don't know, I can show you pictures. Okay, so last summer I was a part of a program where you can do sustainable volunteering abroad in developing countries. And so basically I went to India for 4 months and studied in a village and took care of these kids in a non-profit school. It turned out that the money that I was spending at the school was going to children who are being sexually abused and physically abused, and the director not only locked me into his office, but he actually tried to kiss me during this time. So it was a total joke, it was a complete mess. And so my argument is that you shouldn't go as Westerners into developing countries trying to save these children as a white savior complex that we have in helping these poor kids, because you're actually not helping them. You're hurting their economy because they're coming in as a wealthy tourist, you're taking jobs away from the community, and you are not really helping these kids because you go in with the idea that you're helping them and you're teaching them, but you actually leave 4 months later without you leave them without an emotional support, because you spend this time there and then you leave and you disappear and you go
jobs away from the community if tourism boosts jobs and boosts the economy.
Yes, but you are taking a job away from someone in the community who could use the money. So the things that I was doing, I didn't need any relevant skills. I wasn't going there showing something that after like my PhD or my master's. I was literally trying to teach English, but that could be done by any other person in the community who had studied English, and they could have benefited from that and that money.
But isn't it very good for young people from one part of the world to go and help people in another part of the world?
Yes,
to
that is
volunteer?
great, but I don't think volunteering itself in a developing country is as effective and as efficient as it's made to seem. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry.
What's the replacement?
So the replacement for that is to actually give money to like organizations who are doing it effectively. So I know a lot of them aren't doing it effectively. That's why you need to do your research and need to know like where you're going. So for example, a site called Ompacast actually has like efficient and like they have like credible sources. Okay, they can disagree with me, that's fine. So my argument basically is that you shouldn't go as Westerners into the developing world thinking that you're saving people because you're actually not. You're just hurting their economies, you're hurting the people, you're not really helping them. A study showed that 90% of 4,500 kids in so-called orphanages in Ghana actually had at least one parent. So that means that their parents are actually sending them to these orphanages, making them poor and making them look like they need help so that tourists can come and volunteerism and spend money at these schools. So yes, there was another study that showed that 1/4 of the kids actually had lost both parents in the southern part of India. So that's only 1/4 of the actual kids who are getting like this help and who are using this money. My other point was that basically like they have to like increase the resources for the volunteers, so they have like volunteer houses or they have like better resources for them, so like nicer areas, like nicer beds, and then you walk outside as a volunteer, you're supposed to be helping them and you see them like sleeping in like wooden beds and not really being like helped, and the money that you're actually spending doesn't really go to them. A study by UNICEF showed that only 1/3 of the profits actually go to the well-being of the children, and the main reason why people are going and the main reason why this still exists is just for profit. So I could have literally spent the $8,000 that I spent going abroad for 4 months and given it to these people, giving it to the children or their families in the villages, and they could have benefited from that way more than me going abroad and spending that whole money and all that time there.
Isn't it like he doesn't like it. Isn't it a bit like though people say, well, this charity is corrupt and they're using up the money, so we don't have to give anything, and that agency is corrupt, so you don't have to volunteer. So isn't it like an excuse not to do good things?
It is not an excuse to not do things, it is an excuse to educate yourself. So my point is that you have to do your research before you go abroad or before you go anywhere in the world, and you need to know the context of where you're going. You can't walk in as an ignorant tourist and be like, oh wow, like I'm helping these kids, here's all this money. That's degrading them and not actually helping these individuals.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello everybody, I'm here to tell you I believe that society would be better off if religion never existed.
If what, sorry?
If religion never existed. So this is for 3 reasons, because it divides up the human race. It's been like the reason for a lot of violence over time, and it's not really open to changing to new ideas. So like if you look at like wars like the Crusades, and it's a known fact that religious wars have killed more people than any wars in the world's history. And like politically, it divided nations up. Like if you look at like India in like the late 40s, the partition of India.
World War II was not a religious war.
But there are other wars over time.
Killed a lot of people.
But the Holocaust, it alienated a religion.
It's not about the religion.
Okay.
It's too late.
The partition of India, you've like split into Hindu India with like Muslim Pakistan, and then you had refugees moving all over, and there were a lot of killing just based on religion, because it divides people up, and it makes people inertly believe that your way of life and your beliefs are better than others. And
Donald Trump religious?
Donald Trump?
George Bush there, he's religious? George Bush killed Iraqi people in the 91 war. He killed so many Iraqis, bombarded so many villages by American weapons in Saudi Arabia.
I'm not supporting like any terrorism against other people.
No, but why you not condemning your governments, America, for killing people in the Middle East?
Carry on. That's like not what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
exactly.
Carry on, don't worry.
It's fine.
It's
not religion that like gives people morals and stuff. Like people inertly have morals. Like we're born with empathy, which separates us from like other animals. Like if religion's the only thing that gives you morals, then like a serial killer and like the nicest person ever could be in the same religion, but they have a different set of morals. And like with science and education, like religion is unwilling to accept new ideas, Like if you look at like Galileo's discovery in the past, like he was accused of being a heretic, and religion did not support him, was not open to changing, even though he was right and he backed it up with evidence. And religion just, it answers questions, but it doesn't give you like the right answers that we need as a society.
Religion, so you get a balance.
It could give people hope, but it's done way more harm than good. Because the violence.
Don't people need religion? How come every single society all throughout human history has had something?
It's because they want to know more about the world, so they use religion to answer it, but it doesn't effectively answer it. It just prevents them from asking more questions and questioning themselves.
But has it done any good? That's the question.
I don't think it's done that much good. Like it could give hope to people.
What about Christmas and the economy?
I agree with you. No religion. I
think we're born with it now. Like if you look at kids on a playground playing, they don't know much about religion, but they know right and wrong. They know the difference. I think societal values do teach you what is right and what's wrong.
We live in a Judeo-Christian culture which informs our values.
Mr. Speaker, I agree with you. No religion at all.
Thank you so much.
To begin with, I was a Jew. Then I became a Christian. Then I became a Muslim, and then I realized it's a load of
Where does society values come from?
In the religious
and do you know what I am now?
Human rights. If you go to the communist country, they're almost atheists. They got worse human rights.
I don't really believe that religion is really the cause of like increased human rights. Because I don't think the communist countries, I don't think they were bad because they didn't believe in religion. There were other factors that went into that.
But where does society get its values?
I think you get your values because we're all inertly, we have morals. Like I think we're just born with them naturally. And as you go through, as you age and grow up, you learn like what's right and what's wrong.
We're not all good then if we have this wonderful value system. I mean, at least in religion, people think they can be better. They try to be better.
But there's still religious people that do bad. Like people like hate groups, like the KKK in America is backed by religion. So religion can do a lot more worse than not having it at all, pretty much.
Isn't that a very tiny section of American society?
But not everyone is religious who's a good. There are good people who aren't religious at all, and religion doesn't affect like how they think and how they act. Because I think we all want to make the world a better place for the future of the human race as a whole.
And are you telling people that they're not free to practice their religion then?
I think you can be free to practice it. It's just the background of it that like promotes you to divide people up is wrong.
Our sense of morality comes from our Judeo-Christian culture in the West. So what you perceive as good and bad, you say about doing good, is good and bad in the Christian Judeo sense.
I think it comes from a lot more than that. Because if you have like kids, you want to make the world a better place for your future. You're not fully motivated by just I want to do good so I could go to heaven.
No, but what we see fundamentally as our good and bad comes from our Judeo-Christian
I think it would have developed naturally without it.
It has. If you look at the countries that never experienced Judeo-Christian values, you'd see, Papua New Guinea, tribal communities where you can say, well, they really haven't had any sort of impact on Judeo-Christian values. You can see they're very fundamentally different to us.
But I think like it divides people up. Like we all need to come together as one more, as like a whole human race. And with religion, it separates people, and that I think as a whole is just bad for our society.
Okay, that's it, Abraham. Thank you.
Content of everything from your
Come, man, say it straight. Man, don't listen to BBC. Man, don't listen to ITV.
Are you come from here?
Listen.
Well,
this area.
Yeah. So you need to go to school to learn English.
Yeah.
Well,
so how long have you been here?
Me?
Yeah.
Since none of business.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah. Did you want to talk in front of the camera? It's up to you. Because you can say whatever you want. Okay. I don't think there's going to be much of a debate. But he's a good man. Anyway, look, have a good day at Speaker's Corner.
Yeah.
Excellent. He's one of the best.